Hey, this is the Wildly Wonderful Podcast, Wide Open Spaces with Elise, aka the Fiery Redhead. Episode number 184. Why do you feel depressed? Here we are, raw, edgy, and not so politically correct. You can find me anywhere you love listening to your favorite podcasts, or go to wideopenspaceswithelise.com. Now let's listen, talk, and evolve together. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Over 88 countries listen to this wildly wonderful podcast, and I'd like to highlight just a few of my top listeners: Bangladesh, Uzbekistan, Netherlands, and Sweden. So thank you very, very much for tuning in to this podcast. Why? Because you want to evolve, and you want to grow, and you just want to live your best self, your best life. So with episode number 184, why do you feel depressed? We're going to get into mild depression and what might be going on with you. Now, two of the highest amounts of depression in the world, the countries in the world, number one and number two. Number one is Ukraine, and number two is the good old United States of America. Well, Ukraine is understandable. It's a war-torn country. People are fighting to save their country, their families, their homes. We get it. Traumatic. U.S., I don't even know what to say. We're just one hot mess here. So it's very understandable why we have a high rate of depression. But I want to talk globally because, well, over 88 countries listen to me. And yes, I've said that twice because I'm pretty damn proud. And I just hit 30,000.2K downloads. So thank you, much, much appreciated from all my listeners. It makes me feel good to know that I'm making a difference and that we're making a difference together. And so 3 countries stand out when I took a deep dive into who are the least depressed countries in the world. Well, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. Those Nordic type of countries. And I don't think it's quite surprising to me. I myself don't hear a lot about those countries. You don't hear about turmoil and mass shootings and just all that kind of crap that we hear that can affect us emotionally and can make us depressed. And they've obviously been doing something right. So I did some research to find out why these 3 countries have the lowest rates of depression. Ukraine is 6.3% of its population suffer from depression. United States, 5.9%. Not too far from each other, dealing with totally different environments and circumstances. Now, some people fear the fire, and some people become the fire. And that's what I'm asking of you today. This Fiery Redhead is asking you not to fear the fire, but to become it. And this is how you're going to tackle your mild depression. Now, if you're somebody who has been clinically diagnosed with depression, you're being seen by a doctor, you may be on medication, you can still be here with us because I'm going to give you some coping mechanisms towards the end of this podcast that may help you. Now, when I say mild depression, maybe it lasts a day or two where you feel just so blah, blah, blah. Maybe you're really tired. You don't have the desire to do anything or focus or be with people or just do anything, the things that you love. I get into those funks probably once every few months. And at first, I don't realize what's going on. And after a few hours feeling this feeling, this yuck feeling, I realized today I feel a little depressed. And I have to sit with myself and look at what happened behind me and what's going to happen if there are things that I know that are going to happen ahead of me, and evaluate if any of those life circumstances are making me feel this way. Or it could be a chemical imbalance, especially for you women. That time of month, you may notice you feel a little depressed. Keep a record of it. It's something important to tell your doctor. There is something that can be done for that if that monthly hormonal change is making you feel the blues, that mild depression. I know some of you go, ugh, they're probably going to put you on medicine. Maybe. I know a lot of you are against medicine. Obviously, as a therapist, I'm for it. I've seen great results with it, even low doses of it. If you've tried all the natural stuff and none of it works and you just find this free-floating kind of depression that you're not snapping out of, please seek professional help. Maybe they'll work with you just through therapy in the beginning and see whether you need that medication. You may just take it and notice something happen, a difference in you. About 17 years ago, I became very anxious due to a life event. And as a therapist, I knew it was happening. And after a couple of weeks, I'm like, I have to do something about this. I just wanted to crawl out of my skin. And I got put on a low dose of something that I've been on since then, still low dose. And about 3 weeks into it, this epiphany happened. I wasn't fidgeting anymore. My thoughts weren't racing anymore. I wasn't worried about what's going to happen in 2 weeks. I started to focus on just the day that I was in. And I realized as the medicine stabilized in my system, this feeling that I don't know that I've ever felt at that point. Maybe brief flints of it, glimpses somewhere of this. And I then realized I had probably suffered from anxiety my entire life since my early teens, middle school age. That was my normal. I didn't know any different. I just thought that's the way people feel. Until it got to the point where I needed some medical help and realized that chemical imbalance, that little imbalance in my brain that was now stabilized through work that I did personally and this low dose of medication, I was feeling the way I was supposed to feel. Things were in perspective. I could sit still, I could breathe. I wasn't focusing on the drama or the things that were overwhelming me. I was living, and I still do live, just for what's happening today. So if you're against medication, but you've tried all else, please seek professional help and see what they can do for you. Try a low, be very firm and say, I just want to try a low dose just to see what happens. Just my recommendation from a professional standpoint and a personal standpoint. So the 3 countries that have the lowest rate of depression, there's 2 simple reasons why that scientists say. And I'm going to tell you what those are in a minute. But I'm going to tell you why all these other countries that are high levels of depression, what the scientists say, why. Number 1, they noticed an increase since COVID. Okay, we all get that. Number 2, the political unrest that's in the world is creating a lot of depression. And number 3, social media. We can't avoid it. I can't avoid it. I need it for my business. I have to do it every day to promote this podcast and my book. So I am subject to social media. Yes, you can limit your social media, but unfortunately, what we see on social media affects our psyche. And these are the 3 main reasons why they feel that there has been an increase in depression in the world. Now back to those 3 countries that have the lowest rates. I want to go back there because that's where I want to be. And I believe that's where you want to be. And not physically, metaphorically, but to feel the way they feel. And they do for two reasons. One, they instill in their philosophy of work and private life, work and play. They have healthy boundaries. Their employers have healthy boundaries. They respect their employees' private life. So this means that when they clock out, whatever your job is, it's behind you. Nobody's texting you about work. Nobody's saying, oh my God, can you come back? Nobody's like, I need to talk to you. I need to have this phone meeting. No, you're off, you're off. And so this separation of work and private life has created a healthy, emotional, mental health environment in these countries. Now, obviously, we in these other countries like good old United States of America, I can't control the employers. So what I ask you to do is to try to find the healthiest workspace that you can. To have boundaries, to be firm in your boundaries. And if you do have an employer who can't respect that, and you've spoken to them, and you probably might have little kids at home, and when you go home you need to be there for them, not answering a million phone calls. And so this is just, I'm not saying up and quit your job, obviously not. You need to support yourselves, but maybe create healthy boundaries. Have a nice talk with your employer, or work on starting to think about making changes and working towards that point so that you can find another job and not be unemployed. Work towards that. So try to find that healthy balance. I know this one is a real struggle, and a lot of it's out of our control. The second thing they do is totally in your control. These three countries mandate that there must be green space. Not like New York City, which has beautiful Central Park, but some people got to haul ass a long way to get to Central Park when they live far away in the other side of the city. And I know there's little parks planted here and there with, swing sets and things for the kids. That's not what I'm talking about. And even if you do live more in suburbia, your parks are for baseball games and lacrosse games and soccer games and pavilions with parties and events. So they're not like that quiet green space. So what's a girl to do or a person to do? Well, for me, this girl is lucky that I have a backyard that's fenced in. I can go out there with my dog. She can roam. She can do whatever she wants. Find the bunnies, find the lizards, not hurt them, but she likes to chase them. The birds, if they're landing in her green space, she runs and makes them fly away. And while she's doing that, I'm able to become one with my green space. Now, let me talk to you first about what this green space does to you chemically, physically, and emotionally. Have you ever sat down on the grass, whether it's got dew or it's dry? You've put your palms down on the grass. You put your feet flat on the grass, and you just sit. I bet not many of you can say yes. I want you to try this and notice what happens to you. You see, we are biological human beings that need water and nutrients to survive. Grass needs water and nutrients to survive. We are both parts of nature. So when you become one with nature in a green space, touching the grass, having the grass under your feet, you connect. A chemical reaction happens in your brain. The sense of touch sends all those neurons in your body to connect, to feel the green space, to become one with nature. And science has proven time and time again that this is one of the most therapeutic things you can do for yourself, is to sit with nature. Have that chemical reaction. So how are you going to feed yourself that water, give yourself that nutrients in a green space if you don't have that backyard? And you live in that concrete jungle and you gotta hop on the subway just to get to the park. Or the park is just for a bunch of screaming kids and games and whatever. You create your own green space in your environment. If you live in a condo with a balcony, if you're so lucky, make your green space on your balcony. Go get chunks of grass. Put them in like a plastic bin, square bin. Water it. Grow some herbs. Grow some flowers. Create potted environment of all green things. As you enter your apartment, put some planters on each side of your door, even if you have an indoor hallway, because that's telling your brain as you walk through the threshold of your home, it sets a tone. You're connecting with that green space the minute you walk in. If you don't have a balcony, find a space inside your home. Get the plants that are indoor plants that don't need a huge amount of sunlight and create a little bit of a green space. Not only are you creating that space for yourself to be nurtured, to connect with nature, but you also have to take care of that plant, those plants, and you need to water them and nurture them as well. So as you're doing that, it reminds you constantly that you have to nurture yourself. It's genius. It's simplistic. This is what helps these countries lower the rates of depression. Now, obviously, living in a place like the United States or another really large country that's got a lot going on with it, it's not so easy. But you can control your bubble, your world, and take control that way of your environment, your immediate environment, even though you can't control all the chaos that might be going on around you. The power lies within you. Simplistic, easy. These countries, it wasn't that a rocket scientist figured this out. They just evaluated and put the mental health of their citizens ahead of the financial gains, of the rat race, of doing better than the next person. And by starting with basics, their countries flourish. The people flourish. And so obviously we all can't pick up and move to Sweden, though I wouldn't mind. We can create that environment in our own spaces if you don't have a backyard or a place. Another suggestion is to do a little adventure. Look up some great places that are green spaces that don't have parks and, baseball games on the weekend with the parents screaming for their kids, to get to first base or to hit a home run. A quiet place that just has trails and paths. And you might have to drive there or take a train there. But once you find this on your days off, make it a point to go there. You see, things just don't happen. We have to make the effort. And I know the fact that you're here and you stopped at the title of this podcast, Why Do You Feel Depressed? You wanted help. You're feeling that blah, blah, blah at times. And if it's more severe and extreme and you haven't seen a therapist or a doctor, please seek out professional help. You can really help yourself this way. You can really improve the quality of your life. It just won't change if there's a chemical imbalance. Things have to change externally and internally. So please seek that help out. If you're having that mild blahs, like I told you about, try some of these techniques. You can comment here on this podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go to my social media, like, follow, subscribe, leave me comments. Let me know where your green space is and what you do, or if you've created a green space. Some people are very fortunate and have yards that they can garden and do things in. I want to hear about it. Let me know. Let's all grow together and give each other ideas. Let's flourish together. Let me leave you with this thought again. Some people fear the fire. Some people simply become the fire. Join me, the Fiery Redhead, by fighting for yourself to find that fire within you. Just go out there and do it. Thank you so much for joining me today at Wide Open Spaces with Elise, the Fiery Redhead. Remember, positive thoughts always create positive energy. Go out and explore all those wide open spaces in your world. Check out my book, A Wanderlust Within, A Journey to Self-Discovery by Elise Litwin. Well, until next time, my friends, I'm going out in my green space. So ciao.